everyone, my name is Alice from Discovery Eye. At Discovery Eye, we specialise in Power BI for the environmental and water industries. And in this video today, what I want to walk through is handling very detailed spatial files within the icon map. So I'm talking about when we have really large detailed polygons and we convert them into WKT text strings. And these text strings, they actually exceed the character limit of Power BI. So for those of you who don't know, Power BI has a character limit of 32,766. I hope you don't know that because I hope you're not exceeding it. But it's a very common scenario when working with detailed spatial data. So in my first video, I went through steps of how we can actually split apart our WKT text string up in Power Query and then stitch it back together using concatenate X, so a function writing a DAX measure. But we saw in that first video just how slow poor Power BI and how hard it was working to try to render and stitch back together these polygons because we had a lot of data. So in this video, I want to walk through two other options that we have, which I'd always recommend looking at before we go to the third option, which is splitting and then concatenating our WK text string. So today I want to focus on options we have of how do we simplify our layer. So reducing the number of vertices within our polygons and also reducing the precision. So reducing the actual number of decimal points that we're storing for each longitudinal latitude coordinate within the file. And these two can go a long way to actually reducing the length of the text strings. So let's take a look. We're going to have a look using the same data set we did in the first video, which was the detailed estuaries and drainage catchment shapefile from the New South Wales Seed Database. So this is free to download, so feel free to download and follow along with me. And the first step I want to walk you through is a really simple way of actually simplifying the layer. So I like to do this using MapShaper, which is a free, just online web tool. So just mapshaper.org. You can simplify your files using tools like QGIS, but I found that I ran into problems when I was simplifying adjacent polygons where it would create these tiny little holes if you zoom right in between the polygons. So I do know there's other kind of programming options you can run within QGIS, but I found MapShaper a really easy and free tool which was very accessible to everyone as well. So all we need to do here is bring in our shapefile. So here I've got our shapefile, I've got it zipped up. Just drag it in, I'm going to import it, and you can see this is our data here. What I want to do is I want to run a simplify tool. So I like using the first method, and it's as easy as just changing the percentage up here and just seeing just how far or how much it changes the integrity of the shape. So you can see at 0%, that's kind of meaningless. If we go over here, we can still see the boundaries. So 10% might be okay for this data. So we could do a lot of simplification if we zoom into maybe a detailed area along the coast and just have a look and make sure that this level of simplification, we're not losing the accuracy of the data. So that's really important. You can see that we've got 7 line intersections, which have created maybe some little splits or holes. We can repair those, and you can see that it's actually corrected those for us. So I'm going to go with this level. So this is a little bit iterative sometimes, trial and error. I just simplify and then have a look at it in Power BI to see how it looks. But I'm going to export it as a shapefile here. So let's export it. So that should just be saved to your downloads. Let's have a look. Here it is. I'll just unzip this here. And then we'll just bring that in to QGIS just so we can have a look at it. So I'm just going to drag in my shapefile here. So if we put both of them on, we can zoom right in and you can see the little bit of difference. So we're missing all of those little edges here. But for our purposes, this is fine. So that's the first option we've got. We've got an option of actually simplifying the file. And if we were to export this and create a WKT file, we'd see that we would have a lot smaller file. Now we can see that immediately just with the file size. This file size of the shape file is only 929 kilobytes. It will be much smaller than the original. But what I want to do now is always when I simplify that, I would always reduce the precision of the file as well. Because even though we've simplified the file, it would still keep a lot of decimal points. So we saw in our first example, the file was keeping 12 decimal points, and we don't need that level of precision when we're looking at longitude and latitude data. So the second step that I would always do is use a tool in QGIS called Snap Points to Grid. And what this does is it actually snaps the vertices to a grid. And we can define our grid spacing to be 4 decimal points. So I'm working in longitude latitudes here, so 0.0001. So I just want to snap it to that level of precision. You can save your file. I'm just going to create a temporary file because we're going to convert this to WKT in a second. And you can see now I've got my snapped file on top. If we zoom in at some really detailed bit, we might be able to see a little bit here. We can see just a little bit of shift. So again, you just have to make sure that that level of precision works for your data and you don't lose any accuracy. But now what we want to do is we want to actually save this as a WKT file. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to export and save features as. Let's save this. I'm going to call this demo underscore maybe pre-processed, because we did the simplification and the snapping points to grid. Here I'm going to change my geometry and tell QGIS that this is polygon data. I'm going to create a WKT file. That's what we need for icon map. And I don't want to add this to my map. So there are all the options we change. We press OK. You can see that was exported successfully. If we go into our folder, go working here, we can see that this was created. It is so much smaller than our original. So we're only 1,100 kilobytes versus 18,600 kilobytes. If we go ahead and open this in a program like Excel, we can actually just have a real quick look at what the file looks like, and we can see if any of those text character string limits have been exceeded. So I'll just drag this in here. And if we scroll down, we can see that pretty much all of them have passed. We do have a problem one here. We can tell that because we can see the character limit has been exceeded and it's pushed it onto another line. So Excel has a very similar character limit to Power BI. But we can see this is much better. It's only happened on like maybe 2 or 3 of our polygons, whereas previously we had pretty much all of our polygons that were exceeded. So if you want to see how to actually bring this into Power BI and stitch together your WK text string and visualize it in the icon map visual, then please go ahead and revisit the first video where we go through all those different techniques. But I hope you found this handy, and I really think that using those 2 options will really help you just to display really nice snappy maps in Power BI.